Good afternoon, yet again. There is nothing more permanent than a temporary government program. Now, I'm going to be talking about nonprofits right now for a minute, and the problem with them, the inherent problem with them. And the inherent problem is very simple. When there is a temporary government program, it requires people to run it. Those people require paychecks. And if the problem that they are addressing were to suddenly disappear, they would lose their jobs. Now, what does that mean? Well, it's very simple. The people that run nonprofits, for the most part, basically have no incentive whatsoever to permanently solve the problem that they are addressing. And if anything, it's actually good for them if the problem got worse. Now, I've worked for several nonprofits across the span of my life. I have worked with several government organizations, and aside from emergency response services, every single one of them had the exact same issue. Let's go ahead and say we have a problem with illiteracy. Children illiteracy. It's a problem. So, what do? Well, you start up a nonprofit organization that basically says, teach the kids how to read. Noble, very noble. There's nothing wrong with that. But what causes the problem of kids being unable to read? Now, that is a very deep question. It's got a very long, complicated answer, but primarily it has to do with the underlying culture. The kids don't care to learn, or the parents aren't teaching them, or something of that nature. Maybe the school system is broken in one way or another, but that's hardly the point. That's an entirely separate issue. The primary issue is that the people that are in charge of the Teach Kids How to Read government program, well, let's go ahead and they start off as an unpaid volunteer. They work their way up the chain, and pretty soon they're doing the real work, the talking to politicians, the fundraising, the everything like that, because these people primarily get their money from donations or from your tax dollars, from grants. A grant is simply you either talk to a politician or you talk to one of the representatives and you say, hey, we need X amount of money for operational costs, including administrative fees. Administrative fees translating roughly into, I need a paycheck. The people running the operation have to do this for X amount of hours a day. They got to get paid for it, otherwise we're not going to have people. All right. So what does that do? It builds up an entire business whose sole source of income is basically donations and tax dollars. All right. Well, what does a business do? It attempts to grow. It attempts to grow, and it attempts to keep their consumer base up and running. Prisons are a great example of this. There are prisons who will brag and boast about how the people leaving their prisons come out so dysfunctional that they're 90% likely to commit another crime and wind up right back in jail. And why do they brag about this? It's simple. Because it means that they have a job for the rest of their lives. It means they have a job for not only the rest of their lives, but people coming up behind them, maybe their protege, maybe the people they're training, maybe certain family members, maybe, or politicians who are friends of theirs. They have a job. They have a platform forever. The simple fact of the matter is that the people running these nonprofits don't have a single damn incentive to actually fix the issue that they're addressing. If anything, they have an incentive to make it worse. I'd like to point out really quick BLM. I know I pick on them, but someone's got to. Primarily, throughout all of their riots, they burn down low-income neighborhoods and they terrorize areas that are primarily inhabited or owned by people of color. Well, what does this do? Well, it makes those areas worse. It impoverishes those areas. And what that also does is that since they are addressing racial inequality, they perpetuate the racial inequality, which means that they have jobs forever. Not only do they have jobs forever, but they get to stand on a pedestal and say, I was right, because look, of course there's a problem. And if they keep exacerbating the problem, then the problem never goes away, and they basically get to keep their jobs. Because what are they going to do? What are these people going to do? They've been government administrators for years and years and years at this point. What do you think? They're going to re-enter the workforce? Probably not. So, they have every incentive to keep the problem moving. Because fixing the problem is not only difficult, but fixing the problem would also put them out of a job. Now, this is a rather short one. It's pretty much all I have to say because, well, it seems like a rather self-evident issue. And the only thing that could really fix it would be, what if you get someone who's super motivated to go in there and actually help fix the problem? Well, they'd be a very moral person and I would applaud them. But those kinds of people are rare. And they are especially rare among the permanent bureaucratic class. So, that's all I really have to say for today, and damn, it's been a nice day out. Y'all have a great day, everybody. Take care of yourselves, be healthy, preserve, don't spend money on frivolous things, and stay healthy, stay active. Have a good one.